everyone, SEZ the Vet here. Giving home to egg-laying chooks, an incredibly rewarding experience, but some things just to be aware of so you can make the best decision for you and for them. Stick around. Hi all, thanks for coming back for another episode of SEZ the Vet. So I want to kick off this episode by saying that I have given a forever home to many an egg-laying ex-battery chook, and I would not do it any other way. If I had enough land right now, I would have many chickens and I would always be prioritising a home for these girls. So this episode is not intended to sway anyone against it. It is an incredibly rewarding experience with many pros. I'm merely doing this so that you can have an appreciation from a medical perspective, what state these girls arrive in, what to look out for, and how to know when they need help and how to set them up for success to live out their little lives. So let's kick it off with a pro. We're going to go pro, con. First pro, the hens that are used for intensive laying in New Zealand are going to be your brown shavers or a shaver cross generally. They are really good layers. These individuals are special. They've been selected over many generations to be high producers. These breeds produce high quality eggs and a lot of them. In saying that, they will tone it down. You can expect an egg a day from these girls for the first about year and a half before they slow down, which is when the industry considers them spent chickens, and that's when they go for slaughter. So by the time that you give them a new home, if they're at the end of that 18-month stretch, they're still going to be good layers after a much needed break, which we'll come to, but they do slow down in their production, so be aware of that. But they are good laying chooks. First con is that because of this intensive egg laying genetically, when they come out from the farm, they will be osteoporotic. Now, osteoporosis is a state of poor bone density and quality, and in these girls' case, it's because of the huge amount of calcium that has gone into calcification of the egg shells day after day after day. The body leaches it from their bones to prioritise egg production. Some statistics from around the world show that the incidence of bone fractures during handling as they're removed from the cages and put on the trucks to the abattoir can be even sort of 20-30% with broken bones, and then many more during handling on the other side as well. So there can be a lot of broken bones. They're fragile. They're very fragile straight from the cages. The lack of exercise contributes to that as well. Now, what I recommend to the rescues that I work with is to give a contraceptive shot or an implant straight off the bat when they come from the cages to force their bodies into a rest. Otherwise, they just won't give it to themselves. I treat with an antioxidant and a nutritional supplement that's just added to the water, vitamin D, which helps with the body's regulation of calcium, and of course a properly formulated layer pellet that has adequate levels of calcium. These girls have a really high dietary calcium requirement even during the off-lay period. This is the time that they're replenishing their calcium stores, so you still want to be feeding them a quality layer pellet during their off-lay period. Now, they should be allowed to exercise. This is going to strengthen bone density as well, but be very gentle when you're handling them. If you are going to supplement with calcium, don't add it to the food itself. You want to be offering that in a separate dish so that they can choose what they want and need. But a lack of calcium intake is not generally the issue with these girls. It's all about needing a break from producing eggs and being allowed to move and exercise to strengthen those bones. Second pro, these chooks are incredibly friendly, and I don't think this can be overlooked. If you're looking for a breed that will literally let you walk up and pick them up, sit on your children's lap for a cuddle, you cannot go past a hand-reared brown shaver or ex-battery hen. Gorgeous little personalities, by far and away my favourite compared to any other breed in terms of friendliness. Second con, from a medical perspective, is Coccidia and intestinal worms. Now, all chickens carry these gut parasites, ex-layers or otherwise, regardless of the breed. But when a baby is growing up and the body is exposed to Coccidia and gut worms, it works really hard at building an immune response to protect itself, so that by the time the chick is a grown up, it can carry these parasites pretty easily without having too much of an effect on the body. But they have to pick the parasites up from the environment, from the dirt and their own feces. So when the hens are raised and living in cages and standing on wire, they don't experience these parasites at all. There's no dirt. Poo falls through the wire. So you need to be watching out for diarrhea when they first go outside from the cages and first go outside and move around in the dirt, because at that point their body's going to all of a sudden come into contact with all those parasites at once. You need to treat quickly if you see diarrhea at that point. Coccidia especially can hit really hard and fast. Diarrhea, sometimes blood stained, and take them out, okay? So just as a practical consideration, you're more likely to need to deworm them a little more commonly than your average adult chook, at least in that initial year or so of rehoming. And I'm talking a legitimate oral deworming product given in the beak or in the drinking water or injected by your vet, not your magical spot-on treatments that does who knows how much good on the inside. So not the end of the world, just a practical consideration. You're going to have to drench regularly and possibly treat for Coccidia when they come from the cages. Right, third pro, and this is a big pro. You will be very hard pressed to find chooks that are vaccinated unless they have come from a commercial farm. So while we may see more reproductive issues in X-layers, which we'll come to, they are going to be vaccinated against things like Mareks disease and respiratory viruses, which are really common to see in unvaccinated chickens. So we're kind of just switching out one disease for another. A lot of the vaccines tend to be given very early on, some even on the first day of hatching, like Mareks. So as I say, unless you're breeding yourself and are happy to purchase an entire vial of 1,000 doses for just a few pet chooks, you're very unlikely to find vaccinated chickens in any other way outside of the commercial industry. Third con is because of the chronic intensive egg production, these high-laying breeds are at higher risk of reproductive diseases like cancers and anything that comes secondary to inflammation of the reproductive tract. So, for example, prolapses are not uncommon, and because of the overworking of the reproductive tract and loose sphincters that the egg comes out of, bacterial infections can track up more easily, so it's not uncommon to see those, unfortunately, either. Again, one of the best things you could do for them is to give them a rest from the egg laying, and that's where your contraceptives come in. This should not turn you off giving them a home. From my perspective, I would rather give them a home so they can live out a happy little life, but just be aware that if the time comes that they do come down with one of these diseases, you will need immediate treatment, or at least just helping them cross the bridge to the pearly gates. So if you are getting a group of X-layers straight from the cages, my recommendation would be to get a vet check by a poultry vet, by an avian vet, straight off the bat. Make sure that no one's carrying an infection inside the reproductive tract into your already established flock. I'd recommend having your vet treat them from osteoporosis, setting you up with a deworming plan and giving a contraceptive so that they can take a break from egg laying and allow everything to heal on the inside. I encourage you to do it. It's a beautiful experience in my eyes. The pros definitely outweigh the cons, but just be aware of those extra considerations so you can do the right thing by them. Okay guys, I hope that helps. All the best. Please don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up and comment on the YouTube channel, and I will see you back for the next one. Cheers. See you later. Bye bye.